So welcome back to my channel. This is Gamer Dom, and another one of these series is of top tier tanks. We call it top trunk tanks. Top tip tops tanks. So I looked at some of the categories of tier 6 tanks before. This is using stats from the wonderful website VBAddicts, who basically compiled data from the various the whole player base over the previous 30 days. So this is, you can go in and have a look at how certain tanks are performing versus their peers. You can compare on everything from damage to assistance to spotting, whatever you want to do, and get a sense of what how various tanks are playing and how you stack up against the community as a whole playing them. So it's an interesting project to look into how some of these things, and I have to say quite an eye-opener, and none more so than the tier 7 tier 7 tank destroyers, which is what I'm looking at now. I was really surprised by the top 5, not the number 1. That did not surprise me at all, and I don't think it will anybody who's watching this, but it did surprise me, the top and the bottom of this queue. So, well, not the very bottom, but one of the lower tiers. Anyway, enough enough trying to confuse myself as well as you guys. Let's get cracking. So we'll first of all look at the top 5 in reverse order. We'll then have a game featuring the top class of tank, and then we'll look at the bottom 3 to see who comes out worst. Again, looking at damage dealt across all servers in the last 30 days, collected by VBAddicts. So let's get cracking. So at number 5 in terms of damage dealt over the last 30 days is this premium Russian tier 7 tank destroyers. This is the ISU 122S, renowned for having one of the best DPMs of any tank in the game. So I guess we shouldn't be surprised that damage wise it deals a lot of damage out. Not a massive player base because it is a limited edition. It doesn't get offered very often, premium tanks, so just shy of 6,000 games, but averaging a very impressive 845.33 damage per game across the community. It's a lovely TD. I really like this. It was one of the Berlin Quartet pack. So you had the Cromwell B, you had the IS2, you had this thing, and what was the other one? I forget now. That came into the Rudy, of course. All came into the game at the same time, and were part of the changing meta of premium tanks. Up to that point, all premium tanks have been slightly worse than their standard counterparts in the game, and with these 4, they changed it. They were at least as good, and in some cases better, than their non-premium tanks in the tech trees. And such was the same with this 122S. So it basically is an ISU 152 at a lower tier, but with 122 rather than 152mm gun. It fires 8.11 rounds per minute. You know, I've got a decent crew in this, more than decent. They're on their 4th skill. I also with a rammer and a really good crew with brothers in arms, I'm getting a whopping 3,748 DPM in this thing. It is a DPM monster, really is, and fires a really nice 122mm shell, which penetrates 175mm of armor with a standard round, 217 with premium, and 390 average damage. So that's your tier 5. That's your, sorry, not tier 5, that is number 5 on of the tier 7 tank destroyers for damage dealt. Number 4 was a bit of a surprise. I just showed it at the beginning here. I wasn't expecting the T28 HTC Concept tank to come into the game. So this is number 4 in terms of damage dealt. It over quite a lot of games actually. It's obviously very popular. Nearly 28,000 games over the last 30 days, and 868.75 damage per game. If people weren't familiar with this thing, this was the second reward tank you could earn playing the personal mission. So you couldn't buy it, you can't buy it. It is purely won via the personal missions. So if you do, the first set of missions is the Stug, the second set is this, the T28 HTC. It is an American assault tank, tank destroyer class. In my categories, it's an assault gun, and it is a bit of a brute, and it's particularly a brute because although there's quite a lot of games being played at it, people don't really know how to shoot it, because the armor on it is fearsomely strong. But it's these boobies, guys. Aim for these. These are really weak. Bullets go through, shells go through them pretty easily. So it has a pretty effective 105mm gun, which is probably why it does so much damage. 181mm penetration with standard rounds, 224 with premium rounds, and 320 average damage. Not particularly accurate, pretty poor aim time, but this is an assault tank. You get close to people with this. You rely on the very, very good armor that this thing has. 203 frontal armor on this thing, and you aim to get into their faces and blow their socks off, we'll say that. So really, really nice, and somewhat unexpected, at least to me, to see this in at number 4. So if I was surprised at number 4, I was definitely surprised at number 3. So the number 3 in terms of damage dealt in TDs at tier 7 across the last 30 days was the British tier 7 tank destroyer, the Challenger. Now I know this thing has had a lot of buffing, because it was god awful. It had a whole new gun fitted to it, and clearly that is working, because when I played this thing I absolutely hated it. It now carries a 32 pounder gun with 7.69 rounds per minute, 220 penetration, 252 with its premium rounds, and a pretty reasonable 280 average damage, giving it 2,150 damage per minute. Aim time 2 seconds and dispersion 0.35. When I used to play it back in the day, it had this 17 pounder gun, which was just lackluster as shit. 171 pen, pretty good premium, 238, but the big downer was its alpha, only 150 alpha. Nobody respects you in a TD unless you can give out an awful lot of damage. But certainly the Challenger seems to be improving. Looking at the last 30 days, VBAddicts are saying 28,500 games, 902.11 average damage per game. Very, very impressive. So maybe it's time to look again at the Challenger. Maybe. So at number 2 of all the damage dealers at tier 7 TD wise is a somewhat underrated tank, I would suggest. This is the Su-100 M1. Comes in at number 2 and is very, very strong indeed. 35,000, nearly over 35,500 games, 907.33 damage per game. Is a pretty good return for this thing. It's fairly mobile, it's got reasonable armor, and it's got quite a punchy gun. 100mm top gun, 8.45 rounds per minute, 212 penetration, 258 with premium, only 250 actual damage, but a reasonable DPM, 2000. I'm a little surprised this is as high as it is, but it is what it is. The stats do not lie. So this is your number 2. So if a couple of the others were a little surprising, number 1 in terms of tank destroyers for damage dealt at tier 7 will not surprise anybody, I don't think. This is the little cockroach, the little demon. This is the German tier 7 premium preferential matchmaking E25. The tank they said that never would be sold again, and then they sold it again at Christmas because Wargaming, we love you. This thing is tiny, very fast moving, surprisingly bouncy considering it's supposed to have no armor. What's the armor supposed to be? 50mm, yeah, right. It has a very, very good gun. 75mm. It's not got much pen, 150, 194 with premium, and let's face it, most people you go up against will just spam gold at you. Only 135 penetration, but a rate of fire of 20 rounds per minute, and obviously with all the equipment and decent crew, you can increase that just ridiculous. This thing is like a machine gun when it gets going. I've got a reasonable crew in mind. It's not fantastic, they haven't even got brothers in arms yet, but I'm getting 3,129 DPM. I'm firing 23.18 rounds per minute, reload time of only 2.5 seconds. It is not unusual if you survive the game in one of these to run out of ammunition. It fires so much so quickly that is inevitable. It has a massive following, 71,500 games, and just ridiculous 955.17 average damage. That means, you know, and stats do not lie, that's a lot of players playing this, and yet they're getting up towards 1,000 damage per game in a tier 7 tank destroyer. And the fact it has preferential matchmaking as well makes it even more deadly. It will never see tier 9s. It will never see tier 9s. Back in the day, you used to if you mismatched in a platoon, you might see a tier 9, but nowadays it's not possible, so you will never see a tier 9 in this thing. And as a result, it is an absolute little assassin, frankly, in the hands of a decent player, it will just shred the enemy teams. So there you go. That is number one on in the charts for VBAddicts according to average damage inflicted over the last 30 days at tier 7 for tank destroyers. So you know what that means is we're going to have a game featuring the E25. Okay, so this is Morty Chai driving for us the E25. He's on Westfield here. He is, well, bottom and middle tier. It's a tier 8 game. It's a 5-10 game, so there's 5 tier 8s, 10 tier 7s, so mid tier. And this is a nice map for this thing, E25. It's a sneaky little bugger. One of the things that this TD benefits from is its camo values. So some time ago, crikey, I can't remember, a couple of years ago now, Wargaming modified the spotting ranges, or the ability, the camo values, that's what I mean, on tank destroyers. So it used to be that if you fired and you were in cover, your values didn't sort of disappear. Then they said, no, that's too powerful, we need to reduce tank destroyers down, they're too good. And so it became the case as it is now. Nice shot, look at this gun. That Revelese, you can't see him. Not doing much damage, but just an annoyance. It's a little gnat. Yeah, so they amended it so that every time a tank destroyer fired, it lost its camo rating. However, they didn't do that for for premium tank destroyers. And so the E25 doesn't lose its camo value when it fires. So it's just as stealthy when it's firing and stationary as when it's not firing. So it means it has a huge advantage, and I think that's partly why it's just so ridiculously strong. That, and look at this machine gun, bang bang bang. That Revelese, that's a tier 8 premium medium tank, tier higher than him, and he's just worked him over, and there was nothing the Revelese could do. Can't get shots on any of those guys, they're all behind the hill. It's speedy, it's tiny, it's stealthy, it's got a machine gun for a gun, so you know what's there not to like in this thing. Obviously you get more credits and experience for shooting at higher tier tanks. That LTTB seems to want him to follow, and you know, it's like he's not a scout. I have seen people play this regularly as a scout. It's that good, it's that stealthy, it's good enough to do exactly that. However, it is a tank destroyer. Oh, there's a hawk to our right. Did you see that guy? Yes, he did. He's turned around. Oh, LTTB looks like he's in trouble, and he's died. So he's now going to start bitching. Yep, there you go. That was inevitable. He was shouting for us to follow him, and then he just went in regardless, and then he's pigging them up because he's annoyed that he died and he shouldn't. Well, whatever. Yeah. So he's playing it as it's designed. It is a tank destroyer. It's supposed to be stealthy and hidey away, and that's what he's doing with it. He's trying to get some rear shots, some side shots. Let's see, that Comet needs a bit of working over. Didn't see him. Oh, can he get the kill? No, just snatched that shot. Oh, and that one he stopped moving. There you go, got him in the end. Oh no, somebody else got him. What a waste of an ammo. You can see he's already burnt through a lot of his shells. He's only got 19 standard rounds. He does carry rather a lot of HE. I'm surprised how much HE he's carrying. You don't need anywhere near that amount of HE, 7 on this tank, in my opinion. Anyway, 17mm HE shell is not going to do much. There's his opposite number, another E25. E25 on E25 sex moment. Don't look now, boys and girls. Takes him down because he had more hit points. You see the two of them blocking shells there off each other. He's lost his driver. Can he go for that Hawk? I always call them Hawk. HWK-12s. He's repaired he's patched up his driver, takes a hit from the Hawk. Can he finish him off? He should get another shot before he leaves him on 10 hit points. But look at that. And it's a speedy velocity shell, so you don't need to aim too far in advance. He could still be spotted here, but no, there is artillery in the game, so you've got to be careful. Relocating, it's the job of a good decent TD player. Keep relocating, keep you can't get it up here. Oh yeah, you can. There we go, there we go. Where is that guy? Didn't quite aim in time on that one, I don't think. It's 10-all. It's a really tight game. Heavy line has fallen. Often happens on this game, on this map. You either win the heavy line or you win the medium line. In this game, his team have lost the heavy line and won the mediums. And it's really about who can hold on at the end here. They've got a couple of decent TDs sitting back. So we're going to go, and looks like he's going to... Is he going to try and get around behind them, or is he going to... Ah, no, there we go. There's a... Sorry about the swinging around. Obviously, not my driving. Not my fault. Tracks that IKV. Takes a shot from him. Can he finish him? No. Got to move. There's artillery. There's a Jagdpanther behind him. Bailing out of dodge. He hasn't got many hit points. Where's that? Oh, puts one into the tracks and takes the GW Panther down. Right, it's 11 plays 10. That's bound to have got the attention of those heavies up the top there, and they may be on their way back. Yep, there goes the FCM 50T. Took out our T71. So Mortichai is off, and he's now going to relocate to the other side. Now this is where this map gets interesting. The problem with this is that it's very, very hard for either side. Ooh, knock down a tree, mate. It's very, very hard for either side. Oh, there's some blind shots coming in. They saw that tree go down, you see. It's hard for either side to push now across, because such is the valley between the two, especially Mordecai's team. They've got more TDs, and therefore it's really hard for the enemy team. He's spotted these guys. Can he get that T29? Nice. That shot looked like it was dipping, but it managed to hit. Blocked. Another one. He set him on fire, and he is down. Good play. Right. Only 2 regular shells left. Only 3 enemy tanks left. Only 840 hit points if my mod is correct. Don't always rely on it, because sometimes these mods get it wrong. We know the IKV is on very little health. We know the... well, last time we saw the FCM, he was on about 500 health. So that would tend to suggest that the T25-2 is on pretty low health too. His team are asking the E25 to spot for them. He's trying to get in a position where he can spot and also get his gun to bear. Because this thing is stealthy as hell. driven to within 50 meters of one before now and never seen it. If they don't, well, even if they fire, it's hard to see them. Now it looks to me like the FCM has moved away. I think we would have seen him. Certainly Mordecai thinks exactly, Mordecai thinks exactly that, and he is now moving around trying to get some better positions where he can see some enemy. He does run fuel on this little bugger, which is slightly surprising to me. He's also got binos and a camo net, no fire extinguisher, which, you know, a German tank is a little bit risky. They do have a tendency to combust. He also can't take any kind of hit. He's only on 51 health. The team are trying to talk to each other, which is good, suggesting they're going to cap. The enemy team might cap, but the problem is for his team, there are more on our team than the enemy team, and generally when that happens is the enemy team goes defensive. So it could well be that they're all sitting up on the top there. There's only 5 minutes left of the game. He's trying to spot, he's trying not to risk his tank, he's trying to get some eyes on things. He has got binos, so, and we've seen already, oh hello, they are pushing round, okay. Not that did that T25-2 any good at all. Right, only 2 enemy tanks left. The IKV, who we know is a one-shot, and the FCM, who is on about 500 health, maybe slightly more. So, was that T25-2 alone? That's what you got to think. Well, did he charge around there a bit recklessly? Was he trying to relocate and spot things, or is there a push coming that way? I think we would have seen something if there was more. So my guess is he was either trying to relocate or trying to get do some glory, because he was fed up with his team camping back. 4 minutes left. So Mordecai is trying to use his stealth, he's trying to use his binos, trying to see what he can see. Nothing spotted so far. What's the chances that IKV is still where he was before? Let's just speed this up a little bit. If it doesn't make you too drunk, speeding as quickly as it is, it moves pretty damn quick. So he's supporting the Su-152. Russian tank destroyer doesn't have any real spotting range. There we go, there's the FCM, he spotted him. But the FCM has obviously got 6th sense, dropped immediately back. Will the artillery have a splash? Yep, they did. Only 100 damage, so yeah. But FCM is going to take a few shots to take down, and we've only got 51 on our tank. So only 2 minutes left though. It need to react quickly, because it's going to be game over very, very quickly otherwise. So he knows roughly where the FCM is. He's trying to get round behind and spot. No joy. Where's that FCM gone? I wouldn't mind betting the IKV is still sitting back roughly where it was before. The enemy team have settled for a draw. Ah, there's the FCM. Right. And we got spotted there. That's not good. S1 has gone to cap, which is a sensible precaution. Can just about do it if it's not reset. 1 minute 30 seconds left on the game, 1 minute 10 or so on the cap. artillery saying he's pretty much loaded. The Su just took a hit, looked like it was small caliber shell, so I'm assuming that was the IKV. There's the 50. First shot misses. Su is going to get him in the side. 50T is not looking. Aim for the turret. He's onto his premium rounds because he's got nothing left. Come on, you can kill him. IKV's down. So this is the last guy. He actually beats our Su. Oh, just can't pen him. That's better. Nicely done. Nicely done. Takes him down. Bit of hard work, to be honest, at the end there, but did it. And that's the E25 in action. So there are countless E25 games there on the WoT Replay site. I picked that one because I like the fact he was an average player, 50%er, and yet in a tank like that, if you play it sensibly, you can have a monster game like that. He aced it, and acing an E25 is not easy. There are players who play this thing so well, so the barrier to entry for an ace tanker is very, very high indeed. He got Bruiser, he got Spotter, Arsonist, Duelist, Fighter, Fire for Effect. Finished out top of his team. Yeah, 3,033 damage. I mean, he's only doing what, 150 a shot, and he makes 3,000. So you know he's fired a lot of shells. 5 kills, 1523 base XP. Fired 40 shots, hit with nearly 30 of them, and penned with 24 for that 3,000 damage. He took 5 hits himself, 4 of which penetrated, 1 bounced, and 1,300 assistance damage. Doesn't run a premium account. 60 best part of 60,000 credits after cost, because he did have to use a couple of premiums at the end because he'd run out of standards, and also looks like the fuel costs, I think. 31,000 profit without a premium count. Would have been 60,500 if he'd been running premium. And experience wise, with his ×2 bonuses for running a premium tank and also being these missions that were going on at the time, 3,732 experience. Again, 5,600 if he'd been running a premium account. And I like this game because, you know, as I say, he's a average Joe, 50% win rate guy, pretty low win 8. And he played it pretty cannily. He showed off the mobility, the ability, the fact you can relocate well. The camo values are tremendous on this tank, and the fact that the gun is just like a machine gun when you get a chance. Yeah, it's not the highest pen gun in the West, but it makes up for it in just sheer volume of shells it chucks at the enemy. And that is why this thing is #1 in the charts in terms of tier 7 tank destroyers for damage dealt across all servers. Across I think even if you did this survey, you know, in 9 months time, it would probably turn out the E25 would finish #1 on the charts, because it is just that good. So we've seen the best, let's look at the rest. So the bottom 3 for damage dealt over the last 30 days at tier 7 for a tank destroyer. Yeah, this thing comes in. This is the French AMX AC 1046, the tier 7 French tank destroyer. It's just, yeah, if there's any tank in the game that needs a buff, I would suggest this is certainly in the top 5 of those that need buffing. And you can see it's not popular. Only 9,300 games over the last 30 days. 657.68 average damage, so 300 less than the E25, which is just a monumental amount. It's just lackluster. 100mm gun, which on the surface is pretty good. 232 penetration, 300 average damage. Dispersion is 0.34, which isn't awful. Aim time of 2.9, but it's big, it's slowish, its armor is non-existent, although it looks like it should do. And the good news, if you're struggling through this, personally I absolutely love the tier 8, so it's almost worth the pain to get there. But this thing, yeah. So this is at number 16. There are 18 tier 7 tank destroyers in the game, and this comes in at 16 for damage dealt. So the second bottom tank destroyer at tier 7 for damage dealt. Actually surprising me a bit. I didn't expect the Su-152 to come in so low. 36,500 games, 657.26 damage per game. And like I say, I'm somewhat surprised. I know it's not as good as the ISU 152, but this thing was always a bit of a demon. I remember playing it and quite enjoying playing it. It has a couple of options, 3 options on guns. So the 152 HE firing derp gun, which is pretty effective, 700 average damage, only 135 penetration, but 3.29 round per minute. Or you can go for the 122mm like what the ISU 122 has, which is a rather more effective gun, 175mm of pen, 390 average damage and 8.11 rounds per minute. But whatever you choose, this thing is obviously not performing as well as its peers, and given it's Russian, what's the betting this gets a bit of a boost at some point. So bottom of the pile, I'm not surprised this is low in the charts, but I didn't expect it to come in bottom. 68,000 games, so quite a good number of games, but only 605.13 damage per game is the American turreted TD, the T28 Yeah, I am somewhat surprised this is as lowly as it appears. It actually has a pretty reasonable gun, 90mm anti-tank gun, 170 pen is a little on the low side, that's probably why it doesn't perform. 258 if you hit the 2 key, and only 240 average damage, so it's giving it a DPM of 1800. Given some of these tier 7s are up around the 3000, certainly 2000 damage per minute, this thing is clearly overdue a bit of a buff. Yeah, it just doesn't perform according to the rest of the tanks in the tech tree. So, you know, one would hope at some point this will get a bit of a boost. But at the moment it's sorry at number 18 down at the bottom. So I hope you found that useful and interesting. It's certainly an eye-opener for me in many categories. I was surprised at some of the tanks that featured there. I've put a complete list of all the 18 tanks and where they stack up in the description of the video, so you can see where your favourite tank sits and where it stacks up again, where you stack up in terms of your experience or your damage compared to other players, and see how you perform. And yeah, there's some good tanks there in the middle of the bracket, so check that out and see what you think. Anyway, I hope you found it useful and interesting. If you did, please give it a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so. In the meantime, enjoy your games, have fun, try not to take it too seriously, and I'll see you again soon. This is Gamer Dom signing out.